What's good, friends list? Episode 78 of the Game Pass Gamecast coming at ya. Cyberpunk 2077's abysmal launch continues to be the biggest story in gaming. From its misinformed return policy pushed by CD Projekt RED, which in turn caused Sony to pull the game from its digital store and Microsoft to basically accept all refund attempts, to the potential of a class action lawsuit towards CD Projekt RED for misrepresentation of what the game actually is, the story seems to never end for the Polish developer. So, this week, we catch you up on all of the latest news regarding Cyberpunk 2077 and just what the hell can even be done, if anything, to change the narrative of this game over time. Has CD Projekt RED fully fallen from grace with its fanbase? Plus, Among Us has set an all-time record for monthly users, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down, especially with its addition to Game Pass on PC. Can the indie darling keep the momentum and become the game that is a true liaison to different sects within gaming, entertainment, and hell, even politics? All of this and much more on the newest Holly Jolly episode of the Game Pass Gamecast.
Now the fun begins.
Richard.
Stop! You violated the law.
Welcome back to another episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox Game Pass, and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversations around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz I tell you every week, wherever you get a podcast at, and follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast to stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games like, and our dope giveaways. I'm your host, as always, Travis White, aka Travelus, on most internet platforms. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, Mike Peapack. Mike, as always, what's good? What's going on? Merry Christmas. This is going live the day of Christmas. To those who celebrate Christmas, happy holidays to everyone who doesn't, just in general. But Mike, I want you to not only tell me about what you're playing, but tell me what, it's the holiday season. We got to keep it jolly a little bit here. Tell me what, in terms of gaming, I mean, just in general, I mean, you can tell me what you're thankful for in general, but what in gaming right now in 2020 has made you thankful that, fucking hell, man, I love that we have this medium. Like, what have you done in 2020 in gaming that made you solidify, like, your love for gaming? And two, I want you to give me a Christmas wish. What's the one thing in gaming you would want? If you could have anything for Christmas this year in terms of gaming, what would you want?
Sure. I guess what I would be most happy about, especially this year, is the fact that Age of Empires 2 has taken off to this, has gotten to the state that it has. The game has grown exponentially since the release of Definitive Edition, and the continued support from the developers have really aided that growth. The ladder's as active as ever. The player base is larger than ever. The game's probably in the best state that it's ever been in. Everything about the game is tremendous, and they're coming out with a new expansion here in about a month. Everything is going great for that game. And for a game that's 20 years old, to, be so successful, I hope that a lot of developers kind of take note of this and say, Blizzard, I'm kind of basically talking to you with Diablo 2, basically like, oh, wow, what, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Maybe sometimes less is more, all that kind of stuff. But also alternatively, something that I'm a little bit more thankful for that would be maybe a little bit more mainstream is the fact that it seems like of course, a lot of people are going to go, Christmas without the new consoles, but it does seem like the online ordering for at least the Xbox has been a little bit better. I know Best Buy in Greensburg had Xbox Series S's in stock that you could have gotten like 2 days after Christmas, or they were getting more, whatever the case may be. So I'm thankful for that the scarcity of the stock seems to be going away, if you will. So,
or at least trending in the right direction.
Yeah, that's pretty much the two things that I'm most thankful for as far as like a gaming is concerned, because I do feel like the year was overall pretty light. Like I know Valorant came out, and that's been, doing really well, and Fortnite's doing its thing. But personally, as far as I'm concerned, seeing such a classic game really come back to life, and the competitive scene being so big, them getting tons of tournaments, Red Bull sponsored tournaments, like it's just really cool. So I'm happy for everyone that's been enjoying gaming this year. But that's been my favorite thing. The biggest thing that I think the thing that's solidified my love for gaming the most this year, anyway, is seeing. I mean, even though I haven't gotten to get my hands on it yet,
Hmm.
unfortunately, seeing the team that made the Left 4 Dead's making a new game and how great it looks.
Hmm.
It's just nice to see some of these classic development studios and, again, going back to Forgotten Empires doing such a great job, or at least newer dev studios taking over, taking the reins on an old game. It's just really, really nice to see old games get breaths of new life, or old standbys that people have been clamoring for a new release,
New
finally kind of
content
getting.
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
getting that, because as far as Left 4 Dead is concerned, I still love that game. It's a lot of fun, but I mean the source engine is a little bit outdated that you play on, and no matter how many new maps or whatever you get, I mean it's not boring, but it's just
Hmm.
not as fresh as I would like it to be. So I'm really excited to see what the Unreal Engine has to offer the series. It looks fantastic from the streams I've seen. So just excited that an old dev studio has gotten, kind of a new lease on life, if you will, and I'm excited to see what they, or get to play what they've worked so hard on.
Hmm. No, definitely. And now give me one thing you wish for in terms of to come out of gaming. It could be in 2021, just in general. If you could pick one thing to happen in gaming right now, or a game to appear or something like that, what would you want?
For next year,
Just in general. Just in general.
I just want Halo Infinite to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't even really care if it's like, I don't really care if it's my cup of tea per se, as far as competitively speaking,
Hmm.
because I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to get a little burnout on, I'm just old, man.
Hmm.
Like, shooters, like, I'm just getting old. So I'm hoping that Infinite's a game that I can, sink my teeth in and really enjoy, even from a casual standpoint. And I don't know that I'll ever get to a casual standpoint with shooters. I
Hmm.
don't know when that point is going to be, but like, I just hope that it has more staying power than Halo 5 did. I hope, they announced $1 million tournament through Esports Engine, which is basically run by the people that used to do MLG. So really excited for that. I just hope that the game's good, and that it kind of, I don't think it can return to prominence the way it once was. I just don't think that's possible. I think it's been too long.
Hmm.
But I hope that, like whenever Reach came out and all those Twitch streamers were playing it, and it was, the numbers were great for the player base, and the viewers were great. Everything was trending in the right direction, but it was very short lived. I hope that a similar thing happens. I hope that the game grows, and there's a ton of players and viewers, but I hope that it has staying power. I hope that it grasps at people, and even if they don't release a battle royale off the rip, I hope that they tease it and it looks like it's going to be a good battle royale, because I think that's what a lot of people want from Halo in general. I think everyone just wants a fresh BR, and I think everyone's kind of pointing to Halo as like, this is the one that I think is going to be great.
No, definitely. And I agree. And that would be in terms of realistic, I guess on my end, that would be mine as well. Like realistic very much could happen within the next year, knock on wood, obviously. Hopefully this game doesn't get delayed again, but
Hmm.
or it's in a state that it doesn't need to, and all that jazz. But I totally agree. Where it's at that point now where you know the writing's on the wall in a good way that I see right now. Like before we knew so little about this game. And that was always the thing that like you and me talked about, but really you championing that it's like, you know, you kind of see the writing on the wall in a bad way leading up to the gameplay reveal that okay, why haven't we heard anything about this game? Like sure, cool. I we get that sure, a game's announced and then hey, it's not going to be ready for, 2 years, after its initial reveal. Sure, it's going to take a little bit of time. It's hey, we're just revealing this. We just wrapped, getting the engine up and running. We built this new engine. It took 2 years to do that. Yada yada. Okay, cool. We're people have to have a bit of patience to get to that. I get that, but to hear literally information maybe twice leading up to that gameplay, that you're like something's not right here. The
Mhm.
everything's not adding up to the degree that it should with a blockbuster AAA franchise, Microsoft's tentpole franchise. But now since then, it felt like that delay in general was just a big breath, like just a big release. Finally, that it's like, okay, now that we don't have our balls in a grasp, a vice grip almost, that it's like we have a little bit of wiggle room. We are able to. People have seen the flaws of this game that I think a lot of people internally probably did see that with that game. That it's okay now that people are seeing that and it's out there. It's almost like you tell on yourself. Like when you were a kid in trouble and you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna fess up to it. Hopefully, we're not in too much trouble. Yada yada. That it almost felt like that with that gameplay reveal. And while I liked a lot of elements with it, and the art style didn't bug me personally as much, I totally understand why things would be, why people would have, some complaints with it and whatnot, not like it in general, and feel like they needed more out of it. But finally, we started seeing, okay, now that that's out of the way, and we got the time from Microsoft that, hey, we don't have to launch this with this game. We could tweak this game to get it to where we need to get it. And Microsoft's connecting people with this game that probably should have been for quite a while, like Joseph Staten, and, bringing in from what it looks like and molding this game to be something that really is the true evolution of what I think Halo fans wanted almost. Even just from screenshots and things like that we're seeing. I mean, even the multiplayer screenshots that we saw are so reminiscent of, even if it's at its worst, Halo Reach. Like,
Mhm.
it reminds me so much of that it's like, okay, if that's like, hey, at worst, it could be Halo Reach-esque, just from aesthetic alone and presentation and whatnot. That's miles ahead of where we were to a degree.
Mhm.
So it's like, it's starting to see writing on the wall in a good way that, at least it's trending in the right direction. And I personally am still I'm personally still in the group of, hey, this game is going to be good. It's, it obviously has the opportunity or the chance to not be good and be a flop and be technically, I mean, Cyberpunk right now is taking the cake on that, but the biggest flop in modern gaming history, given the budget that it's set at. So, we'll see. But in terms of like the short term, wish, it just same as you. I just want it to be good, even if it isn't my cup of tea, even if it isn't something that I want. I want to just see that Halo get its comeuppance and get its, hey, we're seeing a resurgence with Halo. We're seeing people, how positive just casual audiences in general were on MCC when it was brought to PC, like just right off the bat. You saw that instant influx of people. You saw mainstream, big time players in the streaming world playing that on release day just because of the nostalgia alone of that. But
And most of the big streamers have roots
in
in Halo
Halo,
in
yeah.
some sort of way. Maybe like the only player that I could think of that was playing it, even like with the Bud Light thing that they did
Hmm.
recently, like Shroud didn't really play Halo,
Hmm.
but it's like outside of him, like Summit and a lot of the other guys have all played Halo and they all love it and they have a special place in their heart for it. So
Hmm.
I think it's just for everyone
I
where
mean,
everyone's concerned. It's like it'd be better if the game was good.
Microsoft, I'm sure it's going to happen. I guarantee when, obviously if Mixer wouldn't have shit the bed, but, and that didn't pan out, I could 1000% see Microsoft throwing just handing a blank check to Ninja and being like, let's work something out for you to stream this game consistently. Or like, we're wanting to bring you to, every Friday we want you hosting tournaments for this game or something like that. Like some kind of promotion to have him host things given, his pedigree and, lineage with Halo in general, and still so many people, us fucking old heads knowing him from that. I mean, watching his fucking Halo Reach montages back in the day, like it's stuff like that alone that like I could see Microsoft saying like, okay, we're going to give money to do this. We're going to position this game around, people like that because I mean, streamers in general are the biggest, in my opinion, are one of the biggest marketing tools out there. That it's just so easy. All it is you're working. I mean, granted, some of the bigger names have, hey, I have agents, we have this and that, we have, firms that look over, our public image and our PR and stuff like that. But like most of the time, it is reaching out DMs and things like that just start the conversation. It's usually not just completely, oh, talk to my team. Usually they're the ones streaming, they're the ones doing it, they're involved with the process. It's much more, and granted, it's much more Wild West, I guess, still compared to a lot of mainstream stuff, but I digress. That would be mine as well, though, that I want to see Halo doing that. But, the wild goal, if I could wish for one thing, it'd be for not only a true Oblivion remake, but just to find out that, hey, Elder Scrolls 6 is coming out within the next 2 years, and have obviously we're not going to know ahead of time if it's good or not, but to just know that I wouldn't have to worry about it if it's going to be good or bad, or or if I have to worry about it being bad. I just had that blind faith in Bethesda, like I did 10 years ago or whatever, at that point, to say, no, this game's just going to be fucking good. It's going to be good. That would kind of be my thing, but I digress. Mike, normally this is where I'd say, let's end the button mash for this week, but literally, given that it's the fucking holidays, everyone's shut down.
Crickets.
There's no news. Now, granted, there are some, things we're going to talk about, more big topic stuff involving Cyberpunk that I think is a little more, poignant than we need to hit on. But one thing I did want to mention that we could throw this as button mash for the week, but an article popped up on IGN that I thought was really interesting, and it cites Super Data for this. That Super Data usually puts out a lot of different analytics with different entertainment properties, specifically video games as well. So one thing though that is really wild, and what the title or the headline really kind of caught my eye with, Among Us reportedly had, quote, roughly 500 billion with a B, monthly active users in November. So, like I said, it was over on IGN. Among Us was allegedly played by roughly 500 million players in November, making it, quote, by far the most popular game ever in terms of monthly players. As reported by Superdata, Among Us's earnings figures are comparatively smaller than other titles with as a similar amount of active players, considering it isn't heavily monetized. The PC version, which cost $5 US, was responsible for 64% of the revenue from August to November, despite only accounting for 3% of the player base. How the fuck did this game truly take off I mean, I know how it did with Soda Pop and playing it, randomly digging it up and playing it, but it blows my mind that Among Us now, not only, in my opinion, now granted, when I say this, obviously Fortnite has become solidified as basically one of the tent poles of multiplayer gaming in a platform on itself, and it's evolved past that, I think, to this point where it's just going to be around no matter what. Because, I mean, you and I have been envisioning this game dying off eventually. It has yet to do that. It still gets Steam, and good for it, but how the fuck did this game get to the point where now this is hands down the most popular game going right now? Whenever, for the sole fact that you could literally fucking hand anybody, I mean anybody. You thought Fortnite at the beginning of all that, Fortnite originally, whenever we first talked about it, and really when it was first coming up as, in terms of the Battle Royale, which really sold the game, that it was simple enough and cartoony and approachable enough that you could hand the controller to anybody and they can really probably figure out what to do. Granted, you don't have to worry about building or whatever like that, but you can figure out what to do. All you got to do is aim and shoot and run around, and it's approachable enough that you can hand it off to anybody to play.
Sure.
This completely blows that out of the water in terms of Among Us compared to that. I just it just boggles my mind that 500 million monthly active users were in November.
That's a lot.
1 month alone. 1 month. Fill me in, Mike. What do you think of all of this? Just the skyrocketing of Among Us just in general. Like how the fuck did this happen?
I think it's a combination of a lot of things that have kind of created this climate to see this kind of growth. For me, from when I play with a group that
Mhm.
usually only plays Skeld, and it's a lot of Halo players, and generally they like to take it pretty serious. We kind of play with like a long kill cooldown. We play with like lower speed. We play with all kinds of different higher speed, lower vision. Like we play with all kinds of like different settings that are set for like tournament play, because for some reason Halo kids are gluttons and we just can't ever take anything casually. But um mainly for me, it's like when you see something so simple where WASD gets you around, you click on the screen to do objectives, and it's really straightforward and simple. You combine that with the fact that it's really easy to run on pretty much any PC because of the graphic style
Mhm.
and the art style, which is tremendous. And then you kind of put all that together with the fact that not only are some of the largest streamers in the world playing this game, but you also see, representatives from Michigan and New York and AOC, playing this game on stream so people can see. And it's a win-win. Like these people get to play the game, have fun on stream, and alternatively they also get exposure to people on Twitch, and
Mhm.
get to answer questions straight from people, which I think is something that a lot of representatives and our governments in general haven't really taken advantage of.
Mhm.
But to see the younger representatives and senators really dive into that, I think that all of those things combined really created a great climate for this game to have so many players, have so much growth, the ease of playing it, how fun it is when you do play with friends, even if
Oh
you're
yeah.
not taking it seriously. Like the game's just so simple and fun. And, you know, it it capitalizes on a game. It's basically like Clue, realistically, just it not turn based. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
it's basically exactly like Clue. And Clue is a game that people have played for a long, long time, and everybody really loves to play Clue. So it's a really simple formula that was done really well. And I just want to say congratulations to the team. There's only 3 people that worked on this game.
Mhm.
So for those guys to have that type of success, it's really remarkable. And I'm so happy for them. I'm so happy for the gaming community, because finally it feels like people aren't like arguing like, oh my God, Among Us is so dog shit. How do you play it? Like people do with Fortnite,
Mhm.
myself included. It's just like everyone's just like, if you play Fortnite, I don't really, or Among Us, I don't really have anything bad to say about it. I like it. I have fun with it. Do I
Yeah.
wish that I could get more groups of friends to play with it that might not take it so serious? Absolutely. But I only play it, basically late at night. Sometimes I get intoxicated and play it. It's a lot of fun to play, in that type of environment to me.
Mhm. No, definitely. And that's what and I think too, not only that, the sole fact that you could play this game on your phone as well. Like
Hmm.
that you could hand and it's all cross platform. Like you could just hand a phone to somebody and get them in there and start playing. Um but the only thing that holds me back with it is just for the sole fact that you do need a group of friends to play with. Like you do need you
It's
can't
best
just
to play with 10 also. Like
right.
playing with less is fine, but it's very hard if you don't have 10 people.
Like we've played with like 4 before. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's fun to dick around for a handful of rounds and stuff like that, but like you know who it is, like right off the bat type of thing almost. So I get it, but and I still have my fun with it, and I have nothing negative to say about the game. Just from the sole design of the game being, it literally you can't do solos, you can't do anything like that. Like it's just not how the game
You
functions.
can join random lobbies, but
You
people just
can,
throw and stuff.
right, but yeah, and exactly, it's not necessarily fun. It's not built around really. That is not the way the game is intended to be played. Like Fortnite, for example, it is designed, you versus everyone type of thing. Like everyone, it's a free for all. It's a literal battle royale. Like it's designed for you to jump in solos. Where Among Us necessarily isn't. It's designed to play this as a board game. I mean, it really is. It's a board game at the end of the
Hmm.
day that you're playing. Just obviously, like you were saying, it's Clue for the most part. It's Clue only, with a few different layers to it. But I'm really curious to see just how long this it's going to last, because to be honest, I thought not that anything's wrong with Fall Guys, and I love Fall Guys, and it had a much bigger moment. I thought Fall Guys was the game of the summer this summer. Really, especially too, riding off the wave of, Tim the Tatman getting his first win, not being able to get a fucking Fall Guys win, and everybody like jumping in on that and trying to get that. And not that
I have a Fall Guys win.
You don't have one.
No, I didn't play it that long.
True. I actually, I'm trying to think. I only have one, and it was on PS4 just because that's where I first started playing it, because it was free right off the bat. But on PC, I don't think I have any wins on PC. I have only played it whenever we all have played it. So, but to me, Fall Guys was the game of the summer, and it had a lot longer staying power than not that I thought it would have that, because it launched free for PlayStation Plus subscribers and stuff like that. Like, I thought it would have it would have that Rocket League effect a little bit, and hopefully it would, obviously mirror that and maintain the success that, Psyonix had with Rocket League, but I don't think it necessarily did. But Among Us really just slid into that spot, and now I truly don't see this game ever cooling off to the degree that, Fall Guys did or anything like that, where it's just kind of in the background now that, oh yeah, it has a nice little player base, but, like, where this is going to be almost, as you said, where we see the politicians come in, where we see celebrities come in. It's this liaison between our world and everybody else's worlds. In all these different ecosystems, this could be the liaison to bring those all together, to not only bring the world of gaming and streaming and content creation really within gaming, taking that ecosystem and, bridging the gap between celebrities and movie stars and politicians and whoever, musicians or whatever, you know what I mean? Where it's going to become that game now that you can actually, that you're going to see AOC and fucking, I don't even know, Pharrell and whoever playing together on a stream, just making, and Tim the Tatman all in one, like, stream together. And it's only benefiting, everybody involved with that. It's benefiting gaming because it's getting outside eyes on gaming in there. And while it's also getting, the politician's message of, hey, this is what I stand for and yada, yada, you get what I'm saying. But I fully see this having that staying power because of how simplistic it is and how simply you could just literally hand somebody anything and just, here, oh, grandma, you have your phone? Here, just open it up. And it's not, oh, I can't see anything because, I don't comprehend the 3D graphics or anything. It's literally just a cartoon that you're watching. It's a Flash game for the most part that you're watching. Mm-hmm. So
I think like they made the absolute right decision to like basically say that, hey, we're not even going to make Among Us 2 because Among Us 1 is just blowing up so much. And I think that was the right move for them to do also.
I totally agree. At this point, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's what even too, like, I'm pretty sure Luke Smith with Bungie was on record saying this, but it's tongue-in-cheek at this point, if not, that people know, but Destiny 2 was completely on Activision, because Activision believed in, there needs to be a, cutoff point to then sell this game again and, keep people going, where originally Bungie had the idea of the 10-year plan with Destiny, where it's literally, hey, here's Destiny, almost World of Warcraft, where here's the platform, we're not doing a sequel, we're just going to keep updating the game and providing expansions and, content drops and things like that to keep players engaged and coming back long term, providing them with a, consistent flow of content. But obviously, whenever they were with Activision being the large scale AAA publisher that they are, and just, hey, how are we going to get more people in here to pay more? It was much more. So Destiny 2 never would have happened. So it's almost, I would say, it's, Among Us has experienced the same thing to a degree, tweak it a little bit, apples and oranges to a degree, but, where, okay, they obviously don't have the large AAA publisher, but hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's just keep updating this game and providing new content for this game. Hey, we're going to put a new map in there. Instead of, hey, we're going to support this on the side while we work on Among Us 2. No, we'll just keep supporting this, and we can make, it's the viewpoint that we're seeing so many, bigger publishers and devs work on these titles that are now just, Fortnite's a platform.
Mhm.
Destiny is a platform. Rocket League's a platform. All of these games are becoming platforms that, they want that to be the one game that you invest in long term. Rainbow Six Siege, Counter-Strike, it's all just platforms at this point. So I'm really excited to see what the future holds for this, because like I said, I think this is going to be that liaison, that middleman to so many bigger conversations outside of just gaming in general. And I'm just excited to see where this goes, and how long it could just carry this team, because half a fucking billion people in 1 month is absolutely asinine.
Right.
So,
I mean, that's just a lot.
yeah, it's like kind of literally, normally you say that's just video game numbers, like it literally is this time. So it's just stupid how fucking crazy it is. So, Mike, like I said, it's a pretty slow week, but it has not been slow in the world of Cyberpunk. We talked about it a lot last week. I gave my initial reviews on that. I put about maybe about, like, I think my game time. Now, granted, this is also for, hey, I have to quit and reload to save because something happened or yada yada. Maybe 5 more hours into the game in terms of my game timer, where really it's probably been around 7-8 in the past week. I'm still having the same issue of, there's times where I find highs with this game where I'm like, man, I really want to find out where this goes, or man, I really want to see this, the main quest line through to the end. But then there's also the other pool of me that's like, hey, I kind of want to play Fortnite. I kind of want to play CSGO. I kind of want to get back into, The Witcher. I want to find an RPG to sink into now that I'm on vacation for the holidays. So it's like, I don't have that pool to be like, yo, I want Cyberpunk to be that game. And I think of that, like I said last week, I think a lot of people were expecting that to be, and it just hasn't, due to not just the bugs, but very, very particular chosen choices when developing this game, and how you were able to do it. And really, for even some people are saying, like mis-selling the game, and, and it's going to be one of the things we kind of talk about whenever we get into, our conversation about it, but like really being misrepresentation of what this game was going to be. So there's kind of a roundup that I want to go over with the latest news of Cyberpunk, because it's the biggest story in gaming right now, and it's going to be for a while. But I think especially right now, with obviously so many people still being at home and still being in, the middle of a global pandemic, that everything's just so magnified with this game that maybe it wouldn't have been before. But like I said, it is a slow fucking week, and literally that's the only stories going on. So we're going to talk about Cyberpunk today. Also, too, it's just really fascinating to talk about as well. So I kind of have a 4 articles type of thing here, and I'm going to pick and prod just between all of them, and I kind of wanted to shape our discussion for the next, 20, 30 minutes or whatever. But 3 of them are from IGN. 1 is from The Verge. I'm going to start with The Verge's over from Nick Stat, like I said, over on The Verge. Cyberpunk 2077 has sold more than 13 million copies despite launch disasters and refunds. So that's factored in 2 refunds. And it's also important to note that the game had over 8 million pre-orders to begin with. So, like I said, we'll kind of dig into this first, and then we'll move on. And then there's 3 IGN articles I kind of want to round this off with. And then you and I will dive into it. So, if you can't tell, this episode is very, very different from our normal ones, where Mike and I were kind of putting together the show notes, and we were like, man, there really is nothing to talk about this week. So I was like, let's just bullshit. Let's just talk about Cyberpunk. Let's talk about the stuff we want, Not that we don't want to talk about the stuff. You get what I'm saying. It's very loose this week, given the holidays and whatnot. Especially we're going to be heading into, our GOTYs, Game of the Years, and stuff like that soon. So it's kind of that like we're in a limbo stage. So, like I said, let's talk about Cyberpunk. So, Cyberpunk 2077 has already sold more than 13 million copies since its launch 2 weeks ago, according to the parent company of developer CD Projekt RED. The sales milestone revealed in an investor note from CD Projekt SA on Tuesday is a remarkable one, considering it accounts for some digital and physical refunds resulting from the game's messy launch. That metric is counting sales between the game's release on December 10th through December 20th, the note says. It's about half of the 12-month sales forecast analysts projected for the game shortly after launch, but before digital storefronts said they would begin to accept refunds, Bloomberg reports. Selling 13 million copies makes Cyberpunk 2077 one of the best-selling games of the year, though it still lags far behind the top 50 best-selling games of all time in CD Projekt RED's last big hit, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which has sold more than 28 million copies across all platforms. You love to see that, by the way. Still, few games ever sell more than 10 million copies, and to break into the top 50 of all time, you need only sell more than 19 million copies to beat out NES classic Super Mario Bros. 3. It's likely Cyberpunk 2077 sales could soar far higher once the studio fixes more of the bugs and the game is released on the PlayStation or re-released on the PlayStation Store. Sony pulled the game last week and began processing digital refunds for unsatisfied customers. So, kind of staying along with that and kind of talking about the overall backlash that we're seeing and refunds and whatnot and really misrepresentation, that kind of kicks us over to one of the IGN articles. CD Projekt RED could face a class action lawsuit over misrepresentation. So, like I said, this comes from Adam Bankhurst over on IGN. As always, all these links will be in the description of the show. Go over there and give all these guys some clicks, which I believe Adam wrote all 3 of the IGN articles. So make sure you go over there and give Adam some love. He's throwing in the time here covering Cyberpunk. Amidst all of the Cyberpunk 2077 launch issues, CD Projekt RED could be the target of a class action lawsuit that accuses the developer of, quote, misrepresentation in order to receive financial benefits. As reported by the New York Times, lawyers and investors in Warsaw, Poland, where CD Projekt RED is located, are, quote, circling the situation and are contemplating whether or not they should take action. The controversy began when the first embargo for Cyberpunk 2077 reviews lifted. Outlets, including IGN, only received the PC version of the game and weren't allowed to initially show footage captured during the review process. Following the game's release on December 10, 2020, major problems were reported by those playing Cyberpunk 2077 on base PS4 and Xbox One units, and warnings were issued for a possible seizure-inducing sequence. CD Projekt RED apologized for not showing the base PS4 and Xbox One versions of Cyberpunk 2077 and told those who were unhappy with the game that they would be able to get a refund if they so desire. There we go. However, they ended up promising refunds they actually couldn't guarantee, as many had issues securing one. Microsoft and Sony did eventually officially offer a way for players to get refunds, and Sony went as far as to remove Cyberpunk 2077 from the PlayStation Store. Right now, around the launch of Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red's stock price has dropped 29%, but that didn't stop it from selling 8 million copies, and yada yada. But the fact that they're already pursuing, people are already looking at pursuing lawsuits, class action lawsuits over fucking misrepresentation and really just fucking like showing a game and just completely lying potentially is what they're saying to what lying to consumers, saying, hey, you're going to get this product with no, there's no fine print or anything like that. No, this is, you're promising this project with none of that, safety netting that, and you're giving them this and it's not adding up. So with that being said, that follows into the next article from Adam. Cyberpunk 2077 developers reportedly confront CDPR leadership over crunch and launch issues. It's just been a rough fucking week in Warsaw. CD Projekt RED developers who have worked on Cyberpunk 2077 have allegedly confronted the leadership team over issues that included crunch and the game's rocky launch. As reported by Bloomberg, quote, frustrated and angry staff questioned CD Projekt RED management during a recent internal video meeting and asked questions related to unrealistic deadlines, the mandatory crunch, and much more. This meeting took place before Sony's announcement that it would not only offer refunds for those unhappy with Cyberpunk 2077's performance, but that it would also be removing the game from the PS Store indefinitely. When asked about crunch, the director said that they were planning on improving production practices, but didn't go into details on the steps they would take to make that happen. Also brought up was CD Projekt RED's comments back in January 2020 that Cyberpunk 2077 was, quote, complete and playable despite the game's delay. The board answered that it, quote, would take responsibility. Another developer asked if CDPR's directors, quote, felt it was hypocritical to make a game about corporate exploitation while expecting that their employees work overtime. The response was vague and non-committal. Woof. While Cyberpunk 2077's initial PC reviews were mostly positive, the narrative quickly changed when the console versions were tested specifically on base PS4s and Xbox One units. And to kind of wrap it all up, too, just to throw out there a really big oof on the game side of it for those who are trying to enjoy this game and invest a ton of time into it and whatnot. Save files over 8 megabytes may become permanently corrupt in Cyberpunk 2077. Those currently playing Cyberpunk 2077 should be aware that if their save files get above 8 megabytes, they may become permanently corrupt and unusable. Redditor Magic Taco Sauce, nice name by the way, posted a PSA alerting others to the issue, and GOG.com, which is owned by Cyberpunk 2077 developer CD Projekt RED, offered a response that is not overly promising. Quote, unfortunately, the save is damaged and cannot be recovered, the statement reads. Please use an older save file to continue playing and try to keep a lower amount of items and crafting materials. If you have used the item duplication glitch, please load a save file not affected by it. The save file size limit might be increased in one of the future patches, but the corrupted files will remain that way. GOG.com saying that it, quote, might be increased in future patches may not be the best news for those who love to collect everything in the craftathon. Redditor mod shares are baby boys, that's not as good of a name, shared the ways players can check their current save files, and they are as follows. You can go through, I could even post those if you guys are interested, but just different ways to check how big your actual save files are. While this may not impact everyone, it's something to keep an eye on, even though this particular issue was not tackled in Hotfix 1.05 that was just released. Many other bugs and glitches were addressed that should make it for a smoother experience. So, Mike, what the fuck is going on with this game? Like, just, and I know we kind of talked about, the off-the-cuff stuff really last week, but this is all stuff from, like, take all of last week out. This is a whole new batch of shit. It literally is like, somebody just went and dug through all the garbage and cleaned it all up, and somebody just, oh, cool, finally, I cleaned everything up, and somebody just backs another fucking garbage truck there and unloads all the garbage again. Like, it just shocks me that this game, and I think it will go back to, what we kind of talked about being, CD Projekt wanted to go public. They wanted to, be publicly traded and whatnot. So now they do have investors to answer to and yada yada. But for the sole fact that they are self-publishing this game, how the fuck did this game come out? Like how was it not? You already have 8 million copies sold before the game's even before the game even came out. So if you already are guaranteed 8 million copies sold, with all the backlash you were going to face for this. And I know the answer is going to just be capitalism, because that's what fucking rules all whenever it comes to this stuff. Just, why the fuck wasn't this game delayed? Wouldn't that have just, fixed, and I'm not even talking about the actual shit in the game. You would hope, obviously, a delay would be able to provide a cushion for those problems to get worked out and fixed, but just the dog shit that they're dealing with now, the mounds and mounds of it from a PR and just community relations standpoint, like, what the fuck, man? Like, how do you even start to approach this game, Mike?
Yeah, it's definitely something that is concerning. You see a lot of, these articles that have come out and kind of chronicled the shit show that is this game, and it's concerning. It's disheartening. It's sad because there's a dev team and there's a studio behind this that thought that this was going to be the next greatest thing, the best thing that the RPG genre has ever seen. And, obviously it's coming up very short of those goals. And to me, it's like, obviously whenever the team behind the game gets into altercations over video with their leadership team, obviously there's a lot of problems going on there, and it's clear to me that the leadership really forced this game out, and they were like, hey, we can't we can't push this game back anymore. We have to go forward with it. And it obviously was the worst thing you could have ever decided to do. And that's, that's pretty much being Captain Obvious. So
Mhm.
outside of that, I really don't have an answer as to how this game got released. I don't think there's anything that really makes any sense. There's nothing that you can really say other than they were concerned about getting it out for the holiday season for whatever reason. When if you would have backed it up till springtime, it would have made it, it would have made it that much better. And I think, a few episodes ago we were talking about when this game was first delayed. I said I went on record saying like there's no way this game's going to release this holiday season, and if it does, it's going to be, I don't remember if I said if it does, it's going to be a broken mess, but that's kind of what we're seeing here is just an absolute mess shit show of a game. And it's sad for pretty much everyone involved, including the gamers, and the fact that there's class action lawsuits potentially coming down the pipe, potentially there's you see all the refunds happening, it being delisted from the PlayStation Network.
Can we
All
talk
this-
about that for a second? The fucking fact that one, and we kind of, not to completely cut you off, but
Mhm.
I never thought it would have ever gotten to that. One, I'm shocked that, to a degree, I'm shocked that Microsoft didn't follow suit and just remove the
Mhm.
game completely. But the sole fact that Microsoft already had a more detailed and more, I don't want to say more thorough, but like they had a much bigger foundation for a refund policy than Sony did, where Sony's practice is usually, hey, it's not like Steam. Steam, you buy a game, if you play it under 2 hours or, and you haven't played it within, or as long as it is within, you've only played 2 hours of the game or 2 weeks, you've owned it, you could return it, or you could apply
Mhm.
to return it or whatever. You could start that process. But
Yep.
and Microsoft's is pretty similar. But Sony, as soon as you purchase it and as soon as you install it onto your hard drive, you're done. You're done.
Yeah.
That is what it is. So it's a little more, cut and dry, I guess, on that end, where they needed to have something to, okay, well, it already goes against our practices of how we do business and whatnot on our returns. So we need to do something. But for the sole fact that also CD Projekt RED kind of fucking shot themselves in the foot whenever they were like, oh, we're not going to refund you. You need to go to your, whoever the retailer you bought it from and work with them. They'll give you a refund, promising, hey, you'll get a refund to a degree. Well, they don't have any special agreement with Microsoft or Sony or anybody, and they're just literally saying that to just kind of push it away.
Shut people up.
Just shut
Yeah.
up. Hey, yeah, go see them. They'll give you a refund, when that's not the case. And doing so put Sony in a shitty situation to not only say, okay, yeah, you can do that, but also knowing that even though all of this shit, for the sole fact that like there are still people with PlayStation 5s who playing this game backwards compatible on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, from what I hear, is a pretty enjoyable time. Like, you're still going to run into some issues and whatnot. It's not playing it on, a high-end gaming PC or anything, but it is a much more playable experience than, it's actually a playable, enjoyable experience compared to, PS4 and Xbox One. So, like, for them to then turn around and say, like, okay, yeah, we'll offer refunds, but then to say, okay, so at the same time, we're going to pull that off the store. We're not going to sell your fucking game. You're not going to make money off this game. If they're taking a hit on it, they want to make sure they take a hit on it directly too, because they know they would still sell copies of that game if it was on there. Period. Like, whether people are getting refunds or not, people are still going to roll the dice saying, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. Oh, I'm going to get a PS5 soon. I'm just going to buy it now. I want to try it out. I want to play it. I have a PS4 Pro. I'll be good. Like, that shows Sony has some balls, and that shows that, like, you don't want to don't poke the bear type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, continue. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I can't believe that happened.
I just don't really have a whole lot more to say about it. It's obviously a complete and total train wreck, and it was a game that it felt like everyone was gonna love it and everyone was gonna be enjoying it, and it just obviously isn't the case. So I don't I don't really have a whole lot to say on it, because I don't I don't think there's anything that I can say that's going to be new or fresh.
Hmm.
I just hope they get their shit together because I would like to eventually buy and play this game, but I just can't spend the money on it right now with how bad it is.
It's see, here's the thing. And like I said, it's not from. And here's where I kind of struggle with a lot of it too, because like I said, I have some qualms with this game. I have issue with some of the actual elements of this game. Take away, you know, glitches, bugs, all that shit, how the game runs. Take all that shit out of it. Optimization, all out. Just some of the aspects of this game, I am just totally like baffled by choices that they made. For example, when your game's marketed as this is the evolution of open world games, this is the new defining, this is going to push the open world RPG genre forward into the next generation. If you're touting that as your game, and when I create a character in it and I'm playing through the game and I can't go to a barber shop and change my hair, that's not the advancement of that doesn't scream, man, advancement of an open world game. When I can fucking do that and name any fucking open world RPG, open world video game in general, for the most part, since like fucking 2012. Like when this game was announced, it feels like this was going to be a next gen game for this past generation, or it was designed as, when it was announced in 2012, hey, this is a next gen open world game. And we first saw a trailer at the beginning of 2013 for it, or like a cinematic trailer. It was going to be, this is this behemoth that's in the distance coming, and it's going to define, it is the next generation of open world game. And it just got in the cooker too long. I think developing this game was announced far too early, or it needed to be readjusted. The vision of this game needed to be readjusted and redefined and whatnot. But like, the sole fact that it's stuff like that it's like you're talking about open world video games and how they're going to move forward, when it's stuff that I can't do in your game that I can do in a game like Grand Theft Auto 5 that's been out for 7 fucking years now. Like it's not
The fact that game's been out for 7 years is hilarious also, but
right. Like it's just shit like that it's like I thought, and I know you didn't care for it as much as, I did, and same with Adam. I don't think he finished the game either, but like I really enjoyed Red Dead Redemption 2. But my qualm with that was Red Dead 2 was much more of a, when it wasn't trying to be the evolution of an open world game like Cyberpunk was trying to position itself. And the reason why I more so felt okay with the experience I had, more accepting of some of the flaws that game had, because it didn't promise that. Where in Red Dead, it felt very much like, hey, I'm playing the evolution of 2010's Red Dead Redemption. I'm playing the evolution of a 2010 video game in 2018, where,
it kind of felt like the game felt like it was should have been released on 360 or something.
No, 100%. Where it literally felt like, hey, we're gonna take the engine and the literal skeleton of this game, pop it into whatever the engine is that they use for, or pop it into the plans of while developing Red Dead Redemption 2. We're going to take the skeleton of that, the movement, the physics, everything like that. We're going to put it into the next one, and we'll expand upon that. Where it felt clunky to move around. It felt weird to run. It felt weird to pull a gun. Like, GTA 5 does so many things right with its world and whatnot, and that's why people keep coming back to it. To me, it's never been gameplay elements with Rockstar games. It's been witty and smart dialogue and writing, and it's been the way that their environmental storytelling is told, whether it's from the people you interact with and things you see, to on Red Dead, it's the environments that you are just literally immersing yourself in and living off the land and things like that. But none of it is an evolution of the genre in general. It's the evolution of what it came from already. like the
Mhm.
basis of evolution. It's not. It's literally like, hey, I'm 17. I'm turning 18 now. I'm an adult now. Like it's you're the same thing you were before. Just you're older and you've grown up a little bit. Like it's
Yep.
just you expanded a little bit, and it's the evolution of that, but. It's not promising to move a whole genre forward. It's not trying to redefine. And that's what a lot of people, I think, just why it comes up whenever we see, oh, there's, potentially CD Projekt is looking at class action lawsuits over misrepresentation and stuff like that. And to me, when I see stuff like that, I don't have a law background or anything like that. Mike, I know you are somebody who, has the desire to go to law school and, study law and things like that. So you may have just a better understanding in general, just for somebody who is interested in topics in general. But like, to me, I see that. Like, that's where one of those, like, sometimes you see people, like, you read crazy things. And it's like, okay, I don't know if they have the basis of that. This one I kind of do. It's like, okay, you literally have a marketing plan that's put, or piece of marketing material that was run on ESPN, one of the largest fucking sports, media conglomerate out there, saying this is the new evolution of open world video games. You're literally saying that like verbatim.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's like, okay, like that alone already is the basis. And sure, it's like, okay, well, what do you compare that to? Okay, well, just alone, you could fucking hold this game up to, Skyrim. And you're going to find a lot of similarities. Like, this is much more of a Bethesda game. And I think I said this last week. This feels much more like a Bethesda RPG from this generation, even late 360 PS3 generation, than an Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, PC, or even more. It feels more like a Bethesda RPG than a fucking CD Projekt RED RPG from a la The Witcher 3. Like, it feels so much distant than that, and so much closer to this Western, United States, North American developed, RPG that we see traditionally out of, Bethesda, where it's clunky, it's open world, and there's a lot to love with it, but it doesn't necessarily move the needle anymore because everybody does what's been done in Oblivion, Skyrim. That set the bar for it, where now we're just getting more of that with it. I don't know. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I definitely feel,
and more so too, I'm interested to see what your take is on just the misrepresentation and everything like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like it's a pretty cut and dry case here, where when you're looking at, does the misrepresentation case actually hold weight? I mean, probably at some point is a judge actually going to side with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough, because you kind of have to go, the court of law, especially in America. So I'm not sure how this would be handled in Poland, but at least in America, it's founded on, the Magna Carta and the British law. And basically what that means is it basically, when you're a lawyer, you pretty much just study other cases that have been similar, or you basically have to make the argument to the judge or the court that, hey, this is exactly how a case or cases have been judged before. This is why this case is exactly similar or the same. This is the precedent set, and this is how, like, you don't tell them how they should rule on it, but they'll know that there's a precedent set on XYZ case, and based on that precedent, this is how someone's gonna judge it. So it's really unique to see, a game studio really start to go in that direction, because I don't think that there's really precedent set so much in the game world. So how a judge is going to go ahead and whether or not it's ever going to get to court, or how a judge would rule on it, is beside me. I wouldn't know, just because I haven't studied it enough, but I would say that they probably have a case. Now going forward, when you're talking about an RPG that you touted as like the next huge thing, and I 100% agree with you, when you're talking about groundbreaking things like, and you're using the verbiage that you were using to describe this game, like, you just got to deliver, man. You were you were selling this thing like it was a snake oil salesman from Red Dead Redemption, dude. Like
Yeah.
it's 100% just false. Pretty much all of it. Like not all of it, but a ton of everything was like just falsified. Like it's just lies to kind of push the meter or push the game. And when you have 8 million pre-orders and you barely sell that much, like that's concerning because 8 million people already said, "Hey, I'm going to invest a little bit of money," or some people purchase the entire game ahead of time and they say, "Hey, like I want to buy the entire game and I haven't even seen it." Like that's huge when people are willing to commit that kind of money. And when you just drop the ball to that level, man, it's a shame. And like you said, a game like Skyrim to me was, pretty groundbreaking as far as some of the, just basically the infinite quests that you can do. Stuff like that wasn't really involved in games before. So it is interesting to see, previous RPGs, but when you hold this game up to those previous RPGs, it becomes concerning because all the entire time that this game was being developed, you were talking about how new and how the world has never seen an RPG like that, and then you pretty much release something that, like you were saying, is lacking elements that you could have gotten from a game that was released in 2012.
Yeah. And I mean that's like it's so hard to just nail down this game and what it does uniquely because
Yeah, it feels like ultimately, when you say that, what does it do uniquely? It feels like they had these lofty aspirations and they're held back by hardware is ultimately what happens to this game, basically when you boil it down. And when you're held back by hardware, it obviously makes it very hard to release a game that you want to release, and it feels like it just completely missed the mark of what they were wanting to do.
No, and that's what it feels so much like a greatest hits. Whenever it's working at its best, whenever this game is, take bugs out of it, take glitches out of it, take performance issues out of it, when it's just on its own and you're playing this game for what it is, it's not a broken game. Like that end of it, it is a complete game. It is a game that is they weren't wrong when they said, "Hey, the game is done." Like this is a done game. It's the vision of what this game is that I think people are now starting to have an issue with because it was promised as, "Hey, this is, I'm not going to say the second coming of Christ, but this is the game that is supposed to move forward, push the medium forward in terms of the genre that it's in. It's supposed to really define, kick off the next generation of video games when realistically this game point blank should have been it should have been bumped to the next console generation. It should not really period. It should not released on PS4 and Xbox One. And I understand that, I'm sure along the way conversations were had at that, but when they see, hey, there's 100+ million PS4s out in the wild, not to mention there's a shit ton of Xbox Ones out there as well. There's a ton of people who are still playing on those platforms, especially when we're envisioning this game to come out, because this is technically a last gen game now that we're talking about. The sole fact that this game it should have been a next gen exclusive hard stop. Like period.
Yep.
If you wanted to play in 1080p or you wanted to have that experience, and I don't necessarily agree with the sentiment that it should be like this all the time, but cool, if you want that experience and you don't have these new consoles, you can play it on PC. Get a PC to play it on. And I don't like using that sentiment, across the board or whatever, but for this specific case, it makes the most sense because sure, when you think about it, like, yeah, there's not going to be, if this game's coming out in December of this year, or it should have been a launch title for these new consoles, because that would have fucking moved these units. It would have made these, the systems come out. Or what it should have done, and I can't remember who exactly had brought this up, because it's not that crazy. Now, granted, given the pomp and circumstance around the game and whatnot in the anticipation, yeah, it's clocked up a little higher than most games, but I would have loved to see this game release on PC initially, and then, hey, console version's coming next year. And then you can dictate, hey, is this going to be, should we stay with PS4 and Xbox One, or should we make it hard? Hey, we're going to cancel these versions and whatnot. and we're even seeing that now. There was a rumor that was debunked, quote unquote, debunked and confirmed false by 343 that, hey, Halo Infinite now is an Xbox Series X and S exclusive. It's not coming out on Xbox One anymore. Well, console exclusive. It's coming to PC as well. But point being, it's no longer supported on Xbox One. And 343 came out and said, no, that's not the case, yada yada. But we'll see about that. I don't know if that's necessarily true. That might be a little more tongue-in-cheek. But
Cyberpunk feels like a game like I feel like it should have been released on PC only at first because it does seem like PC users enjoy it more, and they should have just pushed back the console release.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
until you like kind of figured it out, right?
Right, and that's what I mean when I say that. That alone, that wouldn't be that foreign of an idea. I mean, for starters, CD Projekt RED and CD Projekt in general have been at heart a PC developer. They've been developers for PC games first and foremost, where the Witcher series is what really started to put them on the map, being a PC game. And then, of course, Witcher 2 coming to 360, and then obviously the splash that Witcher 3 made. But, I mean, think about it alone, that a game that is very near and dear to our heart, that we seem to bring up at least once an episode, Oblivion, launched initially on PC. It missed the Xbox 360's launch because it wasn't fucking ready. And that is a game that was touted, like, shown off, like, when the 360 was revealed and was really that, I can't remember what it was like day zero or something like that. Whenever they first started, they rolled out, they pulled the curtain back on the 360 and said, this is what our next console is, yada yada. And it was showcased there as, hey, this is a console exclusive for, Microsoft, and this is going to be the showpiece game. And really touted as, it's planned for launch, it's coming, to then say, okay, you know what? It's not ready to go there. And Microsoft, obviously, clearly, as we've just seen it with Halo Infinite, they're willing to make that compromise to say, hey, the game's not ready. We're more worried about long-term success with this stuff. We don't want to fucking shoot ourselves in the foot. We don't want you to shoot yourself in the foot. We want you to keep making games for us with Bethesda back then and 343 now, and I guess in a roundabout way, Bethesda now too. But, we want this relationship to work long-term, and we want, business-wise, it's going to benefit us much better long-term if you have a fucking good game out there and a game that works. Take the time, and they're willing to do that, and they did back then. And you know what? Oblivion came out on PC when it was, day and date that they had promised right around the launch of the 360, came out, and guess what? After that, boom, Oblivion came out on 360, and it was one of the highest rated, 360 games of its time. So, like, it's not a foreign concept to see something like that happen, specifically with RPGs being such a niche genre to begin with. Granted, they're becoming more and more casual, as we've seen them, and more people are starting to get into the genre. But in terms of traditional RPGs that we see, usually CD Projekt RED make, usually see Bethesda make, like, those typically, you think of those games and you think of PC for a lot of it. So it's like, how really, sure, people would have been fucking pissed. Joe Blow, who listens to the show or whatever, and that's not knocking anybody. We love all you who listen to the show. But I'm saying, XYZ gamer who, hey, I'm excited about this game. I pre-ordered it on Xbox. I can't wait to play it. Hey, they come out and say, hey, the PC version of the game is going to launch. Unfortunately, console's not ready yet. We got to push that back a little bit. As soon as we can get it to you, hey, we're going to launch it in April or something like that. It sucks, but the wait's going to be worth it. People are going to be fucking pissed. But you know what people aren't going to be pissed about? When the game comes out and it fucking works on the console, that it's ready to play on the console that they have. And even if it isn't for Xbox One or something like that, it can eventually come out on that platform and just fucking work. And it's not going to be, oh, well, we got to wait. Cool. I'm curious to see what this game looks like in 6 months. We shouldn't be having that conversation necessarily right now. Or AAA gaming needs to get more on board with the whole fucking, early access, mindset that cool. If this game isn't ready yet, and you're wanting to get it out there, and you're wanting to make a profit off of this game, and it's at that point where you need to, cool. Offer it as early access. Say, hey, this isn't the final build of the game, but we want to get you into this game, and if you're willing to pay for this game now and watch it grow to towards that official release, great. We're happy to have you with us. So I'm really curious to see the discourse of how this, like, the discourse surrounding this game, what it looks like 6 months from now. Like, when we get to summer and when we get to now, hey, we're getting close to 1 year of these next-gen consoles being out there. Or we're in the thick of, the current gen, this being the current gen now. So I'm really curious to see how this looks. And especially, too, the fact that people playing these on next-gen consoles, they're playing the backwards compatibility version. They're playing the PS4 version or the Xbox One version of this game on their newer next-gen consoles. And the next-gen version of these games, or of Cyberpunk, isn't coming out till next year. So what does that look like compared to, what we're seeing now? How are those improvements, if it's already struggling to run on that hardware, and it's running better on these next-gen consoles, and sure, it's going to be optimized for those consoles, so you would imagine with that specific architecture of that console, it could be, it could run even better in theory, but what's that look like for the sole fact that you're trying to take advantage of all the bells and whistles of that hardware, ray tracing and, potentially DLSS, things like that. Okay, well, how's that going to work on that end? Like, if you're already struggling to run it at fucking 1080p settings, on a next gen console, like, what the fuck? So, Mike, like I said, there wasn't that much to talk about this week. Well, we did talk about a lot of shit, to be quite honest, but nothing necessarily new outside of, some additional breaking stuff that with Cyberpunk and whatnot. But it's just that time of the year, where now everyone's, and rightfully so, shutting it down for a week, and now it's one of those things where it's cool. Now it's time for Goaty talk. Now it's time for, hey, what did we love in 2020? Which, shocker, there's, outside of video games, not a lot. 2020 fucking blew. But in terms of, gaming and whatnot, what did we love about it, and what were we excited for? And then looking to 2021, what we're excited for. But that'll be next week. We'll start all that stuff next week. We'll start getting on that train. Now it's time to enjoy Christmas and the holidays with everybody. All you guys who are listening, the whole deal. So, that being said, Mike, why don't you tell people where they can find you on the interwebs to talk about all the nerdy video game stuff we talked about today, like Cyberpunk, like Among Us, like all that we want in gaming and that we wish for this holiday season. Where can people find you on the interwebs to talk about all the nerdy stuff we love to talk about?
You can find me on Twitter at TOYSXLDIER. That's Toy Soldier, and the second O is an X. Or you can find me on Twitch at MP_Toy Soldier.
Nice. And as always, I'm your host, Travis White, aka Travelus, on most internet platforms, including at Travelus_ on Twitter. That's TRAVLESS_. You can also find me streaming time to time on twitch.tv/Travelus_, same as Twitter. And if you want to play some video games with me, you can do so on Xbox Live at just regular old Travelus. That's TRAVLESS, no underscore. And this, ladies and gentlemen, has been your newest episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox Game Pass, and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversation around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz wherever you get a podcast at, and follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games alike, and our dope giveaways. Mike, with that being said, that's going to do it for our episode this week. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. I was getting ahead of myself because I was going to say, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas. Those who celebrate Christmas, obviously. Those who celebrate Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, all that, Happy holidays, everyone. We're so thankful that you give us the time of day, the time of week, to come in here and listen to me and Mike fucking ramble about what we love about video games. Sure as hell what we hate about them at times. You love to let us, say our piece and air our grievances and pour our hearts out for this medium that we are so passionate about. And I'm just so thankful, I get to do this show with my closest friend, and obviously Adam too, two people I consider family. So, I'm so thankful to have the show, and I'm so thankful to bring it to you guys every week. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not good with that stuff. So, but happy holidays, everyone. Be sure to, especially this year, be safe with whatever you do this holiday. Depending on where you are in the world where you're listening, if it is healthy and safe to go and celebrate with your loved ones, please do so. Hug them, kiss them, tell them you love them, because right now it's a scary world out there, man. And there's a lot of stuff that you never just know. So, make sure you go out there and, if you're able to and it's safe to do so, call that person you love and tell them you love them, and, celebrate the holidays with them if you can. And if you can't, do it over phone. Call them, FaceTime them, Zoom them, all that jazz. There's some, hell, do the family Zoom drinking game or something like that. You never know. Have a good time this holiday. So, but Mike, with that being said, that's going to do it for our episode this week. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening, sharing, and being a part of our growing community. The game on, wash your hands, listen to the doctors, Black Lives Matter, and we will see you next week.